let's round out our time with our last review for the night, and that is again keeping to the theme of off-brand Christmas movies, Lethal Weapon.
Oh God, yes. Another favorite of mine.
Yes, another 80s classic.
I'm getting too old.
Again, for those who, again, spoilers, but again, it's been 30 years. It shouldn't be a spoiler. Yeah, so Lethal Weapon is a story of two police detectives. One, Martin Riggs, played by Mel Gibson, and Roger Murtaugh, played by Danny Glover. And
what a great duo!
Yeah, it's kind of like Police Odd Couple. You kind of have a seasoned veteran in Murtaugh, and you have the wild man, loose cannon in Riggs. And you put them together, and you're bound to have some kind of comedy. But it does have a darker side to it, dealing with a suicide, particularly in the character of Martin Riggs, because his wife passed away in a car accident. So these two characters are partnered up, and they happen upon this greater conspiracy, involving drugs and hookers and things like that. And per my criteria for a Christmas movie, I do feel that Lethal Weapon does fall within the realm of a Christmas movie.
100%.
Yes.
Because you have I think kind of the coming together of, obviously Riggs lost his family, mm-hmm. but at the end he's kind of adopted into Murtaugh's family in a sense.
Yes.
And they come together as partners, and then he's also really welcomed into Murtaugh's family.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end, I think one of the really touching scenes was like Riggs hands Murtaugh the bullet that he was like, this is yours. Like, this is the bullet that I kept putting in the gun every night before.
Right. Yeah. For the audience. Yeah, Riggs, he carried a hollow point bullet with him, pretty much all the time, and at least in one scene, which is kind of to indicate or to let the audience know that he is suicidal. He chambers the round. He cocks the hammer back, and proceeds to stick the business end of the barrel into his mouth, and and he kind of has like these kind of like false starts, as it were. He does the motion of doing, he does all the motion, of killing himself, but he doesn't really go through with it because something pulls him back.
To his admission, it was the job that kept him from doing it.
Right. Yeah. He was still able to derive some sort of purpose from his work as a police officer to keep him from killing himself. Although, there were times where he would display just how on the edge he was. One being his talking down of a suicide, of a jumper off a building.
Great scene, by the way.
Which is a great scene because he first approaches it as a very kind of like easy kind of affair. He's like, "Oh man, I'm just here to talk to you," and then the guy that kept threatening, he's like, "Don't come close, don't come any closer, I'm gonna jump." And so he joins them out on the ledge, kind of breaking police protocol. And then, he entices the guy to a cigarette, and then, he slaps cuffs on him. It's like, all right, if you die, then I die. And then, which I guess kind of distracts him long enough to where, for the police department to set up the airbag at the bottom, and Riggs like, oh, let's just jump, you brought me all the way up, huh?
He's like, oh, you want to jump? Come on, let's jump.
Yeah, so you
Yeah,
brought me all the way up here. So and so they both jump off the building, and they land in the beanbag, the airbag prepared by the fire department. It's like just kind of like, and at when the after they jumped and landed in the beanbag, the suicidal guy, well, at this point it's like which one are you talking about? But the one that they were called to talk down, he's like, he's crazy, get him, he's trying to kill me.
Oh, great scene.
Yeah, and then the next scene is like immediately after that where Danny Glover's Murtaugh is like incensed, and he takes him into like this abandoned building, and he's like, are you fucking crazy or something? And he's like you have a death wish, and then so he gives him Murtaugh gives him his gun, and he sticks the gun right under his chin, and he's really like pulling the trigger, and you can see the hammer kind of like creaking back just before it's like it slams home, and it's at that point that Roger Murtaugh he realizes that Riggs is really suicidal. That because the rumor of the mill in the department is that he's either fake, he's probably faking so he can get he can be relieved due to psychological reasons, and then get his pension, and then live off of that for the rest of his life. But it wasn't until like that moment where where Murtaugh saw Martin Riggs put the gun under his chin and about to pull the trigger, or about to fully, pull the trigger, that he realized, like, no, this guy is really, really does have a death wish.
Yeah, and it was, but yeah, it was like through their work together, you find he found Riggs found kind of that redemption.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the sting of his wife's death still lingers with him through the rest of the Lethal Weapon films,
right.
But at the same time, it's like he found purpose and kind of found a family.
Right. He's the kind of like the still gaping wound that that he has from it. He's able to put salve on it, like in the form of his partnership with Roger Murtaugh and his family.
Yeah, and I think too, I think Riggs helped Murtaugh become a better police officer too, because Murtaugh was because Murtaugh there's a scene where Murtaugh and Riggs it's the first time Riggs met Murtaugh's family, and they're sitting on the boat, and they're he's kind of talking about how they're talking about the case, and they figured we kind of solved the case. Someone it's kind of, and Riggs it's too neat, it doesn't, there's still way too many questions that and for him it bothers him, and because he's dealt with so many people where it's the story isn't quite the story, because there's a lot of other pieces in play, and Murtaugh, I think maybe had become complacent at the point of his career. He's getting older.
Because it started off when we were introduced to Murtaugh, his family burst into the bathroom, and sing happy birthday to him, and we find out that he turned 50. So
right.
Obviously he didn't turn 49 and then join the police department. So he's been doing it for a while, and even the classic refrain from Murtaugh is, "I'm getting too old for this shit."
Right.
And so
I think he
has become complacent. He from when we are introduced to him again, we see him behind the desk, behind his desk. So that he probably doesn't tackle too many cases. or he doesn't he doesn't do the legwork as much anymore.
Right, right. And I think through his so I think Riggs helped reinvigorate Murtaugh's detective skills,
Right.
and kind of reignited the passion that Murtaugh had for the job too,
Mm-hmm.
that I think Murtaugh had lost.
Right.
And so I don't know. That was something that I would, because I think this is the first time because I've seen Lethal Weapon, a billion times,
Right.
but you kind when you're working to do a review or to analyze a film, it's
Mm-hmm.
like, I never noticed that before, and it's like,
Right.
there, and kind of with the idea of this being the off-brand Christmas film, and with the criteria that you presented before we started doing this,
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of looking at that. It's like, well, okay, what is how does Murtaugh get how is there a reconciliation or a change in his life for the better?
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is the one for him, because obviously he had the great family, but I think he was reinvigorated as a detective through his connection with Riggs.
Right. And I mean, you might also say that uh, there's a bit of a reunification element too, because uh, you know his daughter is his eldest daughter is kidnapped by this, I guess, cabal of ex
Mercenary.
military mercenary types. And so, like, she's taken hostage, and they are able. Riggs and Murtaugh are taken prisoner, and they're tortured, but but they're able to prevail, and so father and daughter were reunited.
Yeah, so there's definitely that.
Yeah. Interesting thing that I didn't notice the hundred or so times I've seen this movie, but when we're first introduced to the character of Martin Riggs, there's a long shot of at the beach in front, of the beach, and then you see like these tracks, and then you see like the small road, and then you see like this road like guardrail that looks like it's been smashed, and
Right.
then we see Riggs, and I think there's a deeper meaning to there to that introduction, and I think I think that's the spot that his wife got into her or died.
Oh, I never thought of it that.
Yeah, because when we see where he's living at in a motorhome right off the beach, and then you see like the small little road, and then like you see like it like the guardrail, it's kind of like smashed up, right? And
Right.
then presumably, when he was married, he didn't always live at the beach.
No.
No, and I mean like him and his wife probably didn't live in that trailer, and so it's just I think that's just another layer of his character constantly living in living with that pain, constantly living uh, with and I think like that smashed guardrail is uh, kind of like the metaphor for like the smashed heart, or like the scar that his wife's death left.
That is a. I mean, nah, crap. Now I'm gonna have to go back and watch it again, because yeah, I guess I never. I mean, I noticed the guardrail, but I didn't really think of it as anything deeper than that. But you might be right.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because it's like, because for some reason I forgot how she died, and then but then some, and then when Murtaugh was talking with the police strength, she was saying like, oh, I think his wife's death, because of the car accident, yeah, has really affected him, and I think he's really on the edge. And it's like, oh, car accident, and I saw, there was like, the, there's a street right there's a street with like a guardrail right outside of like the kind of like the parking lot, at the beach where Martin lived, and it's kind of like smashed up. And I was like thinking, it's like, oh, that's kind of weird. And then when I heard her say that, like that Briggs's wife died in a car accident, and then that's when it like I was like, oh my god, he's living at the site where like she died because
Yeah,
because kind of like common sense like they probably didn't like when she was alive. They probably didn't live at the beach. They probably lived in a house or or an apartment or something. Because living at the beach in like a trailer or whatever. That's kind of a single guy thing.
right.
You know. So yeah. So the idea that like him and his wife lived at the beach in that trailer, I don't necessarily buy. But him
I don't.
living there so he could. What was that?
I don't think they did either.
Yeah. So yeah, that was just a neat little thing that I caught. I don't know. I might be completely wrong, but I think
It's an interesting thought.
yeah, it's an interesting thought. It's an interesting theory. Um,
We've been watching a lot of Mel Gibson lately, haven't we?
I know. I just realized that too because we watched Patriot, we watched We Were Soldiers, and then now we watch Lethal Weapon.
Yeah.
I mean, damned if he's not
don't get me
good
wrong,
at all the roles that he's been in.
God, yeah, he's. Well, Mel Gibson's one of my favorite actors. Crazy as he is.
Yeah, it's interesting though that how because Mel Gibson's an Aussie, but he seems to have lost his Australian accent.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like if you watch some of like the old like Mad Max movies, which were made in Australia, uh,
hmm
yeah, he had more of an Australian accent back then, back in like the late '70s, early '80s.
I had to admit, I've never watched any of the Mad Max films.
Oh, I think we have our next we have our next theme.
Maybe, yeah. I
The
would. I.
apocalyptic.
Oh, we could do that.
Yeah.
Uh, we could do that as a month. I'd like that.
Yeah, very cool.
Um,
I mean,
but yeah,
anything else you have to add, Robert?
no, I think to me, you kind of this is also if you really think it's kind of the kind of changed how we think of action films too.
Mm-hmm.
Similar to how Die Hard is. It's like not the typical. I mean, you look at Murtaugh's like I don't think of. You would never think of like Murtaugh being like an action hero, but he ends up becoming kind of that type of hero. And
Right. Mm-hmm.
it's like and the combination of Murtaugh and Riggs, like that's one of the great like action duos.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
like
of
it's
our
very
time.
much like the Reese's moment, like chocolate and
Yeah,
peanut butter.
and and kind of like what we talked about today is there's a redemption on both sides,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also kind of like um they play off of each other's like they uh kind of hide each other's deficiencies. Like Murtaugh is
Or
like
they make up for the
yeah,
they
they
make
make
up
up
for
for
each
the
other's
deficiencies.
deficiencies.
Where it's like
Um,
Murtaugh is more of the reserved cautionary guy, whereas um, which is something that Riggs needs sometimes.
mhm.
But at the same time, Riggs is more of the something doesn't seem right here. We have
Yeah,
to
he
take a
like
move.
well. Here's the thing. I think Murtaugh is the experience, where and Riggs is more of the intuition.
Yeah, okay, that's probably a better description
Yeah.
of it.
Where I mean, yeah, like you might say that, yeah, because intuition's good, but you need the experience to like have that discernment to know to chase down like what's important and and let go of what's not. So I think in that way
Yeah,
they complement each other and they form a very good partnership.
yeah. Um, and this is a movie that I love a lot. I've seen it a billion times. I'll probably
Likewise.
watch it a billion times more.
Hmm.
And if you like to see Gary Busey, before his motorcycle accident,
Oh
this is
yeah,
the movie.
yeah. Well, like it's funny because like when you said like but he still kind of retained his like Buseyness. It was funny because I had to watch it after watching the movie. I was like, I get what he means.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Gary Busey is more coherent, like cogent, pre motorcycle accident, but you still see like the Gary Buseyness in him.
Yeah. But it's this is definitely a movie I think if you're into action films, if you want to see a different type of Christmas story that's still falls into that category, this is definitely a movie for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, interesting enough. It was I forget. No, it was written by Shane Black.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, you're right.
Right, because because I was about to say he was directed by, but I was like, no, that's Richard Donner. But yeah, it's like, and it's funny because Shane Black has this thing about Christmas. It's like even in the Iron Man 3 movie, it was set during Christmas time.
That's right.
Yeah,
I
that's right.
forgot about that.
And Iron Man 3 was directed by Shane Black. Yeah, I don't remember if he had a hand in writing in it, but seeing as it takes place around Christmas time, I'm pretty sure he had a note or two.
But yeah, so I say go out and give Lethal Weapon a watch this holiday season.
Yes.
And what would be your
my rating would be a 4.
Rating?
My rating would be a 4.
I'm gonna go 4.5 on this one too.
Yeah, because I mean, as good as it is, there's still some these are more technical things, but there are like a few like audio things. But then also like there are a few writing issues. Like how did they so easily get away from the bad guys? And like why wasn't Gary Busey's character still in the room with Riggs when he overpowers Endo? Because he was just torturing him. So like, where did he go?
Yeah.
That's like really my own. Those are like really my only grievances.
Well, that's why I'm not giving it a 5-star rating.
Yeah, because it's not Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Before we end it, do you consider the first one? Is this your favorite Lethal Weapon?
I don't know, because 2 is pretty good.
Yeah, 2 is pretty good. I've only watched the third one maybe a couple times.
Yeah, me too. The third one kind of goes under my radar. I've seen the fourth one.
Yeah, the fourth one's pretty good.
Yeah, the fourth one is a solid kind of send off, and kind of like a nice kind of way to cap off the franchise.
Oh, but 2 has a special place in my heart because we get a character like Leo Getz.
Yes, that's right. Leo Getz. Oh, yeah, that was the. For some reason, I keep thinking that was in 3. I know he's in 3.
He's in the rest.
He's in the rest of them. But but for some reason, I think that we were introduced to Leo Getz in the third Lethal Weapon, not necessarily the second one.
Yeah. I would probably say number 2 is my favorite, just because Leo Getz is just such a he's an awesome character.
Well, although I will say that maybe my favorite one-liner is from 2, and which is it's uttered by Murtaugh when that guy was about to kill Riggs or something, and he shoots him. And it's like, it's just been revoked. That's probably my favorite one-liner.
Oh, oh boy. Yeah, that's a. See, I would say probably two is my favorite of the Lethal Weapons.
All right. All right. Fair enough. Well, okay. That's
I'm giving the first one a 4.5 because it's not Lethal Weapon 2. So there we go.
okay.
Because this
Okay.
movie is because this movie does not have Leo Getz in it, so it's
remember, I remember watching a little. I remember watching two a little bit later. I was like, damn. Like, I thought Leo Getz was like hilarious. But seeing, like, watching him as an adult, like, damn, this guy's so annoying. But I still love him.
yeah. Well, that's his shtick. He is
Mm-hmm.
kind of that like annoying bastard. He's kind of the thorn in the side of
Yeah. He's the
Murtaugh and
kid.
Riggs.
He's the kid brother of the Lethal Weapon series.
Exactly, and
Yeah,
that's kind of like why he's so funny.
this is true. All right, well that will do it. That'll do it for our review. Robert gives it a 4.5 because it's not Lethal Weapon 2, and I gave it a 4. Definitely should be part of your must-watch lists.
Absolutely.
And yes,